So yeah, hello everyone. We will talk about some voice today and show you how we can help you optimizing your consumer insights with an innovative technology about voice data collection. So
Yeah, I don't think so.
yeah, so just one slide about who we are. So we are a global sensory and consumer research company working worldwide on product development, product innovation. We are a partner on descriptive analysis, but also qualitative and quantitative consumer research. And we always ensure that we do tailor-made studies for your unique business challenges, and we like being in your shoes and trying to go until actionable recommendations to boost the success rate of your products. So we run consumer and sensory testing for clients in operating in a range of categories, and one of the most challenging categories to work in is home and personal care. As you can think about, the nature of these products makes it immensely difficult to capture real-time data. And indeed, most of the products we test require participants to use their hands to apply the product, often in a kitchen or in a bathroom. And these products include shower gels, shampoos, and conditioners, soaps, and razors, as well as dishwashing liquids, cream cleaners, and many more. And it's extremely difficult for people to fill in a traditional survey while they use the product, which leaves us with two main options when we design our test. So the first option is to ask people to use the product in full, then complete their assessment afterwards. But as you might imagine, this results in what we call a degree of a recall bias, because we rely heavily on consumers' short-term memory of the product, and we thus accept that many nuances of the experience could be forgotten. Just try to think 1 second after you've stepped out of the shower, dried your hands, picked up your phone, and loaded up the survey. Do you think you can remember how quickly your shampoo foamed up, or how much foam it produced, or how it smelled, or did you even notice in the moment? And the answer is probably not, which means that trying to find out, to discern subtle differences between products is potentially more difficult. And if you ask people to, on the other hand, if you ask them to pause usage and answer questions along the way, then you disrupt the usage experience. And this is not a solution either. I mean, this could skew the results again. So if we aren't willing to accept what we call this recall bias, then we move to option 2, which is asking people to capture data as they go. This means we need to enable them to use their phones or their tablets in a wet and humid environment. So a simple fix is to use, as you can see, waterproof cases. So no, you don't see here, but we can use waterproof cases to protect the device from water, from damage. But you know, these cases, they often build up a layer of steam or of a condensation. And finally, it reduces the visibility of the survey, and it also reduces the touch sensitivity and overall the responsiveness of the software. And in addition, if you are wearing glasses, you have foggy lenses or difficulty focusing on the text. So, and you know, I insist on this, these obstacles may sound trivial, but they add up to a clunky and frustrating test session. And ultimately, it puts the user in a negative headspace. And we know by experience that a negative mindset can influence perception, and that unhappy consumers can rate their experience more than the product itself. For these reasons, we began to investigate voice-activated surveys. First, we tried using smart speaker technologies to ask questions to consumers and capture their verbal responses. So when I'm talking about smart speakers, I'm talking, for example, about Google Assistant, Siri, or Alexa from Amazon. And we had some success because it's completely hands-free and it's a real-time data collection. But we found out that the lack of visual information for the consumer was problematic because users couldn't see if their data had been entered correctly. And also, they had to listen to the instruction and to each response option, and it could become long and slow and boring to listen to all scale options. And also programming the survey and receiving the data also required specialist tool and understanding. That's why in the end, we preferred investigating voice optimized or voice enabled surveys. So how does that work? We use a code or a plugin and we put it into the questionnaire. We program it in the questionnaire. And this code adds a microphone button, and the survey reads out each question to the consumer before waiting to capture their verbal response. And what's different from the smart speakers is that this time the consumer can see the survey ongoing, the questions appearing, and he can see or she can see his or her responses. So it's very easy. It's like other home use tests questionnaires. It can be accessed with a link and completed on any smartphone or tablet or device. But this time, the user can control the pace of the survey, can easily see and hear the questions, and see and edit the answers as they are inputted. So yeah, the data output is identical, I would say, to usual questionnaire data, but there is additional data analysis on the software portal that can also provide sentiment analysis. We will talk about that later when we show the kind of outputs that you can get from the tool. And so, as I said, the code can be modified to allow for delays between questions so that people have time to complete an action. And you can switch between auto continuation of the survey after each response, or allow consumers to move the survey with a tap. So they can be, they can do it by themselves. Now Jane is going to enter more into details of the technology, the partners we have worked with, and also show you a case study to convince you about the interest of these voice optimized surveys.
Thank you. So we've been working with two partners to make this all happen. So the Analytical Factory own something called the Phoebe portal, and the Phoebe part of that is the part that we use to collect those voice responses. Red Jade is our standard go-to software, and we've been working with these two companies together, and we've all been collaborating to make sure that we've got an end-to-end solution that uses the best parts of Red Jade, combines it with the best parts of Phoebe, and then gives us really useful data output at the end as well. We're going to show you some examples of the output that we get. So we're going to play the example first of a hedonic question and how that appears in these questionnaires.
Continue massaging the cleanser into your skin and eye area to remove your makeup. Overall, how much do you like or dislike the fragrance of this cleanser during use? Please rate on a scale from 1 to 9, 9 being the best.
8.
We're going to show you we're just about right as well.
What do you think about the consistency of the cleanser on your skin?
Slightly too thin.
What do you think about the creaminess of the cleanser on your skin?
Not quite creamy enough.
And we'll finish off with an agreement scale.
This cleanser feels like it is thoroughly cleansing the dirt and makeup away.
Strongly agree.
So with the different questions that this software can produce, we can tweak the survey to match the product. So anything that Red Jade can program, Phoebe can read out. We can also include open-ended questions where the user can tap the microphone, it records for as long as they want to, and then it'll stop when they're done, which means that consumers can take a minute, they can think about their answer. You know, some of the issues we've had with other technologies that they just start recording, wait for a pause and stop automatically, which means that there's no thinking time for consumers, whereas these options really get around all of that. The transcriptions for those appear on screen, and the user can actually edit and review their data as it's being inputted. So if taking part in that test, I saw that it had miscaptured, I would have the ability as the consumer to change the data that it's collected in the moment and then carry on if I chose to. So yeah, really flexible for the consumers taking part as well. So we set out to validate the technology and understand how it impacts the data collection. So we wanted to understand two parts. We wanted to understand the data that it actually collected and the data collection experience for the end users. So do we end up with similar overall results between a traditional survey and a voice optimized survey? And is there any benefit to the end users, to our consumers, in choosing one over the other? So we selected 3 hot cloth cleansers for the test. We expected a premium product that would be superior overall. And then we had an own brand and a budget version. And the budget was actually a copycat of the own brand. So we thought they'd be more similar to each other and give us an idea of the sensitivity of each data collection method. We had 132 women take part from the UK, and they did this as part of a home use test. As we were testing makeup cleanser, they were all regular makeup users, and we split them into 2 matched cells where one used a traditional survey and the other used a voice optimized approach. So we included a subset of consumers in this as well, which were completely new to our testing. And the theory behind this is that we thought people who were familiar with our Red Jade surveys might lean towards that naturally, you know, going towards the familiar, whereas this gave us an idea of what consumers who didn't have previous experience would think of the whole experience, and see whether they would be more open to a new survey type than those who'd maybe used Red Jade before. So we're going to have a look at the overall results first. So here we've got the hedonic questions that we asked, so overall liking and liking of each modality. When we reviewed these, we found that within each cell, the premium product was the top performer, and it had liking scores of 7 or more in all modalities, and that was consistent in both cells. The overall rank order of the product liking and the conclusions that we would draw from the tests were the same in either cell, and there were no significant differences between the cells at this point, which is really reassuring that either one is going to give you solid data to take back for your next steps in research. However, we can see that the scores for the budget sample, which is the one in pink, were very slightly lower in the voice optimized cell than the traditional cell when we're looking at overall liking, fragrance liking, and texture liking. There's just a very slight drop in that mean score. And here it's pretty small and insignificant. However, as we look at the next slide, which is the purchase intention, we can see that though the rank order is the same and the overall conclusions are consistent between cells, there is a bigger difference in purchase intention for the budget sample, where people in the traditional cell were reporting a higher purchase intention than people in the voice optimized cell. So we're wondering whether in the voice optimized cell, people were actually evaluating the product more critically, and whether with the question being verbalized, the people can focus better on the product itself and assess it more carefully than when they're trying to juggle between using the product and handling their phone or tablet. It's also possible that verbalizing the intent to do something puts a little bit more weight behind it than tapping a box in a question. It might mean that consumers are a little bit more reluctant to give a positive purchase intent for a less favorable product. So there's an opportunity here to understand whether this is more reflective of real purchasing habits. You know, it remains a goal for market research to be able to predict, you know, sales and product potential more accurately. So is this a way to do it? Will people be more realistic if they have to verbalize their intent here? So we're going to have a look now at whether there's any benefit to these technologies or whether they're just equal to each other. So what we can see here is that overall, again, we've got similar results in the the two cells. So the agreement with these statements is similar. Both of them are providing a thorough cleansing experience. But we've got, again, there's a little bit more dissent for the voice optimized cell, where there's a third of people now, rather than a quarter, who are not quite convinced by the performance of the product. This is still not statistically significant. So at this point, you could choose either cell and you'd be absolutely fine. But as we continue, you're going to see that the insight that you get from the voice optimized cell really is that much deeper. These are open response comments that we collected with voice technology. So being able to talk freely with their device allowed consumers the freedom to give us unfiltered thoughts and their opinions, and they gave descriptions that were really, really rich, as you can see, in depth and detail. If we move on to the middle comment, we can see that the type responses from the traditional cell were much shorter by comparison. So as we're comparing to, you get a simple statement or a quick summary when people are having to type it out. Whereas when they're speaking to us, they've got real, they're spending a lot more time telling us what they really think in detail. You know, this person's comparing the effectiveness of this product, not just overall, but on mascara and eyeliner versus the rest of her makeup. No one in the written cell is going to do that. And what we're going to show you next is that you can listen to the recording for each comment, which really brings the whole consumer experience to life. So we're going to play this comment for you.
Initially, it was very, very thick to put on my face, and it didn't feel like that it was soaking in or cleaning off my makeup. It took more time to work in. However, in terms of the amount of eye makeup that it's taken off, specifically eye makeup, it's the best out of the three because I can see very little mascara left and no eyeliner. It's also left my skin less oily than the other two. But however, in terms of the scent of it, the second one I like more.
And we're going to go on to this third comment. And the thing to note here is the highlighted section. You'll notice in the recording that that's not something that she's spoken out loud. This user has added that afterwards. So she's reviewed what's gone into the survey, and then she's added a little bit that she missed when she was talking.
The cleanser was really nice. I have now finished using it. My favourite is the smell. I think it reminds me a little bit of like Nirvana Spa, a little bit luxurious. The product itself isn't particularly creamy. It could potentially be creamy to have a bit more of a luxurious feel, but it went onto the skin really nicely. It went on evenly. It felt smooth. My face looks very clean and light. It hasn't left my skin feeling particularly clogged or anything, so I definitely think it feels clean. So overall, it was really nice.
So as I mentioned earlier, the software has the ability to do some extra analysis with these things. That Phoebe portal can complete tone of voice analysis, where it looks at the way things are said. We're going to talk about this more later to understand what the consumers were feeling as they were talking. So that's our first objective, is comparing the data output. You know, what's the value of this in terms of your research? But the second objective is for us to understand the impact on the user experience. So we were asking consumers how they found their testing experience and whether they choose to use a voice optimized test for similar tests in the future. There were very few consumers in the traditional survey group who said that they were interested in trying a new technology. And they were commenting that they were worried that it would be glitchy, that it would be cumbersome. And we'll see some of those comments. What's really interesting is that their fears were actually the things that we're trying to combat. You know, they did find the experience messy, as we predicted, and they found it really difficult to complete the test with cleanser on their hands. They had to keep washing their hands throughout so they could go back and forth between using the product and using the questionnaire. And actually, we have one comment at the bottom right here, a woman who wears glasses and had to ask her husband to read out every question and add her responses for her because without her glasses on, she couldn't see the survey at all. So they are experiencing the things that we expected, you know, them to struggle with, and they're still concerned about taking part in the survey that's going to fit. By contrast, many of the consumers who used the voice optimized cell commented about how effective the tool was. So they were saying these things like, it's really easy because the question was being read out, so I could concentrate. The consumers were saying that it's easier and quicker to record messages rather than typing, and the print came out which was accurate. So they're impressed with how accurate that transcription is as well. And these comments, you know, all of them are suggesting that with the right information available, we can make this an effective tool for our consumers, and we can sell it to them in a way that's going to encourage them to partake in studies. We can reassure them that the technology is not going to let them down, and they might even come to prefer them in the long term as well.
Exactly. And yeah, we were concerned. I don't know, do you want Jane to add something about?
No, please carry on.
No, we were concerned about the demographic differences. You remember about the age and that the technology might isolate older or non-tech savvy consumers. And unfortunately, in this case study, we didn't see any difference in preference of voice to traditional between age groups. So this was quite also reassuring. And to conclude, we find that voice optimized surveys gave similar results, top-line results, though consumers were a little bit more critical when responding verbally, and the user experience was extremely positive overall. There are many avenues open for future investigation, which offer exciting opportunities for product research. And as soon as we engage with products that really bring contextual challenges to the forefront, things like shower gel, shampoo, conditioner, where touching a device during product use is really impractical, we see larger differences between the traditional cell dealing with recall effects and the voice optimized cell answering in the moment. Hopefully, we'll find out with further testing and review. But yeah, I mean, this case study on this kind of product already is a good sign that we can see these subtle differences between products. Febby, the technology the voice technology behind is currently able to operate in over 100 languages and dialects, and additional languages can be available if we ask them on request. And translation to English from each language is also available. I talked about sentiment analysis, but on top of that, Febby, as it's able to capture the changing emotions behind each verbal response, it's focused entirely on how the words are spoken. You know, some AI complementary softwares, they do sentiment analysis, but only based on the words written. Here, it's beyond the words because it captures the voice. And so the algorithm is trained on 150 languages, and it measures the relative change in voice characteristic, such as loudness, pace, breathiness. And so Febby is able to perform, like prosody analysis, so measuring emotions through really how the words are spoken. And it performs consistently across all supported languages and accents. It gives a qualitative insight on a quantitative scale, because you can have your home use test with 100 consumers, 150, and have this qualitative insight output thanks to the richness of the answers to the open-ended questions. And so using Febby to capture vocal open comments is really bringing richer information. And the additional cost and time required is lessened, but the richness of responses collected is immensely more insightful than when it's typed. As I've already said in introduction, this technology can be useful when you investigate any product experience where hands-free elements may help. Think about children's products where parents need to provide responses while they are holding or feeding or changing their baby. This could be really useful. Think about testing wearables, clothes, foods and drinks that are designed for use during fitness activity, for example. Now it becomes possible without interrupting the exercise. And with this, we can also evaluate the cooking experience while preparing foods, the robustness of pet toys during play, or the convenience of the packaging while you are opening or closing the product. And to conclude, once logged in, consumer may find this method easier, and the non-tech savvy or the older consumers in particular may prefer not to type. So this is really engaging. I mean, and with a growing aging population, this may offer access to a consumer segment, or the people who don't like technology. We can access them because they have different needs, and we can still have their answers thanks to this technology. So to conclude, our final take on the subject, we believe that this is a really promising tool to use when you want to collect the data in the moment without disrupting the usage experience when hands are occupied or wet. We think this tool has the potential to find subtle differences between products in use and could be ideal when you want to screen prototypes, for example, or when you're modifying a formulation or recipe. And we really are confident that it gives a richer and more insightful feedback from consumers. And so thank you for listening. And now we are open to any question or to any comments. Maybe there have been some in the chat.